Thursday. Hope everybody's having a good week. My name's Donovan. I head community here at Venice, and we're here for a special day today. We got a really amazing conversation coming up with two great minds in the marketing world that both work at LVRN. We're going to do an amazing conversation. We've been going to be breaking down Summer Walker's rollout for Finally Over It. I know a lot of people have seen the case study that Venice did, so now we're going to actually dissect it and really get to the grand scheme of what went down between the team and how they made such a captivating rollout that spanned over 18 months. So excited to have y'all here. If you're new here, welcome. This is Venice Music. We do events like this all the time where we bring in some of the greatest people from the music industry. We're a platform built to service artists and help artists with their strategy. Many of you may have seen our case studies on Instagram. We do case studies every week where we cover great rollouts of all different types of artists. And Summer Walker was the case study we recently did, and we were very grateful to have the team here. But if you are an artist in the community and you want to have a case study or rollout of your own, we do have a rollout strategy tool that you can try out on our website. It's free to use, and it can really give you an amazing breakdown of your plan, what your audience is, and then it goes into all these different content ideas, and we build that for you directly. So really happy to have y'all here. And without further ado, going to bring up our great speakers, and we're going to get into a great conversation. So want to welcome today Amber Grimes. I'm joined by two great minds in the music industry, and they were behind one of the most talked about rollouts of the year. We have Amber Grimes, EVP and General Manager of LVRN, who oversees marketing across the whole label's roster. And her strategic vision was who was behind the architecture of this marketing campaign for Summer Walker's Finally Over It. We also have Alexis Warner, Senior Director of Digital Marketing at LVRN, who also led the digital execution of this campaign. In partnership with LVRN and Interscope, Amber and Alexis both collaborated to deliver an innovative, deeply engaging rollout that brought life to the album. So without further ado, I'm gonna bring Amber and Alexis to the stage. Please give it up for these lovely ladies, and we about to get into it. What's up, y'all?
Hi.
Can you hear?
Good to have y'all here. Thank y'all for being here and excited to get into this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. First off, like, how y'all feeling? I mean, y'all just got off of doing an amazing rollout. Like, I know y'all are stoked. Y'all hit number two on the Billboard Hot 200. Like, number one on the R&B Billboard charts. Like, it's a lot of success from this album. Like, how's the team feeling? How are y'all feeling about everything? Just to start things off.
We tired, boss. It was a long year. We done. This our last hurrah. Me and Alexis, we're gonna kill this, and we going on vacation.
Hey, same here. Same here. I feel like everybody just kind of like crawling to the finish line from this year. This is a crazy year.
Crawling. Definitely crawling.
I love it. Well, I'm happy that y'all are here with us, and just kind of rounding out the year. I think it's going to be a great conversation. People are really stoked about it. So let's just get straight into it. So, I want to just kind of kick things off and just kind of at a high point, talk about the trilogy. Summer, I've been a fan of Summer for years. I found her on SoundCloud back in 2018 when I saw CPR. So I've seen her evolution as an artist, and it's been really cool to see how you all came in and really built this world around Summer as an artist, and it's continued to transition through time. And I want to talk about the idea of a trilogy, with this album. You have Over It, Still Over It, and then Finally Over It. Can you take us back to the beginning? Was this like a part of the plan to build a trilogy, or was this something that just kind of evolved as Summer evolved as an artist? And really just want to unpack, how did y'all know this was going to be the last chapter for?
We knew it was going to be the last chapter because she told us. A lot of the answers, I think, to both me and Alexis's questions always start with Summer. She is a very creative and locked in artist who has a vision. And so a lot of these ideas start with her, which we're so grateful for. But Over It, has followed Summer's real life for anybody who's a real listener. The songs all come from a real place. She says all the time that it's her diary. And so, I think that it would be difficult to pre-plan the future because she's just living and not knowing what's going to happen every day and responding to it with the music, which is so beautiful and why the music is so honest. So, after Over It, she followed up with Still Over It, which was kind of the continuation of what she was dealing with both in a past relationship and a new one. And she's had a lot more time. and has grown in so many ways as a person, where finally over it is really her saying, this is where I'm at right now. I'm not going to be dealing with any of the things that I was dealing with. So even though those things made great music, I've grown up. I'm a mother. I want better for myself in these ways. And now it's time to talk about that. And after she talked about that, I think she felt like she wasn't going to have anything else to say about it. So this is it. Story to a close. She's choosing herself, and if not herself, some rich old white man, and that's her truth. So we rolled with her.
I love that. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I feel like I feel like everybody was here for that arc. And I think what I love about it is like I think everyone in this period of time is kind of in this transformational era where people are kind of reaching their like highest self in this time. And I think what I loved about Summer was just the growth and like just herself and her personal stuff, but also like a spiritual aspect to her growth too. So I think y'all did a great job of captivating that through this rollout. Another thing I wanted to talk about is just like when it comes to just like building a rollout of this scale and magnitude, there's a lot that goes on, especially early on when you're mapping things out as a team and just really understanding what the grid is from the marketing aspects, in-person activations, what the music is, and how you're going to work with partners. So I would love just to kind of like between both of you, Amber discussing just the high level of the whole project and what really went in into the early days. What were some of the challenges y'all faced in building this rollout? And then Alexis, I want to kind of bring it back to you on just building that digital narrative. So would love to kind of hear from y'all just those like, foundational moments in building this rollout.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, we always want to be honest. Neither of us or any of the team knew that this was going to be a year plus long rollout. We were always working towards a date and something coming. But one thing at LVRN, the music comes first. And so, we had to follow A&R and make sure that we were putting out the best product. And I think that, we had a couple different challenges, right? We're doing this trilogy, which I don't think that there is any other, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, any other R&B trilogies that I've seen completed. So we had an objective to promote that because it's something special. Because it's a trilogy, we had to focus on catalog. So we had, focus to make sure that we were celebrating and telling the story of all three albums. And then I think our biggest challenge was how we wanted to position Summer in the marketplace this time. Because of how she's grown, we wanted to make sure she's shown so much growth, which I think Alexis will speak to, and just position her for the conversation she was about to have, because it was so different than conversations that she was having before, and really not having any conversations before, because she doesn't talk much, she doesn't do a lot of interviews, but she does have a lot to say. So I think our challenges were the same as our goals. And so as soon as we figured out what we needed to do, like what occasion we had to rise to, that's how we started coming up with the ideas and what steps we needed to take and what we needed to set up, because we knew what we were trying to solve for, if that makes sense. Oh, Donovan, you're on mute.
There we go. Alexis, and just from your perspective, building that digital narrative, would love to just kind of hear what the planning went into and that for you on your end too.
Yeah, I think even to get like really granular about how we wanted to start building that narrative online leading into the project, we divided it into three different touch points. So we first wanted to drive awareness that this album is finally coming. So we made sure that we created an online conversation about where is this album, and then that led into the album actually coming. So I think that was the first touch point digitally leading right into the project, that we wanted to get people excited to know the album is coming. And then the second touch point was getting into Summer's dating life and continuing to develop the story of like she's finally over love and dating for other regions or to find a rich white man. So we had different digital touch points where we leaned into that, where Summer went on a date with an alien, where Summer showed up to the VMAs with this random guy. We made sure that everything that was happening in real life, we had a narrative to go along with it. And so we used a lot of different touch points. And then going into the project, she's getting married. So I think because we did so much great planning, it was easy to break down the touch points that we wanted to use. And then we made sure that the in real life things that were happening were coupled with the narratives that we wanted to tell online.
Love that. That's awesome. Like I think one thing that is, I feel like, is very important for a lot of artists is being able to have that depth and the digital piece, because it's the way you communicate with people across all walks of life, and being able to have that strategy and having the goal set up front are very valuable for creative for a creative rollout. So super important. One thing I want to touch on too is just world building, and the world that y'all were able to build around this, and kind of like the motifs and the symbolism that was weaved throughout the whole project. And one of the things that I wanted to discuss is just the bride as the visual anchor with these themes around love and different relationships. She's saying she's not wanting to be in love, but then at the same time is wearing a wedding dress, and I'm curious about, just, what, how this dress and just everything that came within that, world, kind of helps weave this whole era for summer, and just kind of diving into those metaphors from the album.
We knew about the her being a bride and about the Anna Nicole inspiration before we had any of the music. Before we knew anything, she knew what she wanted that cover to be, and so that was at one point all we had to work off of. And be that as it may, we're like, hey guys, we're having a wedding, so like that's all we know, and that's what we need to get ready for. And that's when we kind of came up with the color. You guys saw this a very like Tiffany blue that we used in a lot of all of the imagery even before we again knew what we were doing. So when we first announced the title of the album, which was something we did, was it, Alexis, almost a year and a half ago with Heart of a Woman?
Definitely.
Uh, yeah, so very strategically we released the name of the album because of how high the demand was, and because the market is changing and fans are so angry and demanding at times. Although we knew we weren't ready, we knew we had to give them something. And so we were able to commit to this color that we knew would follow us throughout the whole campaign, and announce the title of the project. One, so people can, and Alexis could start talking about it with its name, even though we didn't have a date. And so always knew we were having a wedding. And I think that helped jog a lot of the ideas that only ended up coming 2 weeks before the project. But I will say, just straight up, for I know there's a lot of independent artists here, the way we were able to stick to that imagery, we shot that cover a year and a half ago as well. And we shot as much content as possible on that day so that her DSP photos look like the photos that you guys saw. We did our album trailer the same day, so you had the same outfit, same makeup, same everything. And just, it's expensive no matter how big of an artist you are to have three, four, five shoots for different things. So when you have one shoot, it's best that you take the time to get it all like organized and your vision organized so you can do as much as you possibly can on that day. Really, that's the only way that we could be consistent.
That's wild. That's wild that y'all were like, this was done so far in advance. So it's like that type of vision is like what cuts through for artists. Having that clear. This is what I want. This is how I want people to see me. And then being able to have the team to help execute it. And I love that you also touched on how important it is to plan those shoots out and make use of that time, because a lot of artists, we've noticed even at Venice, a lot of artists, they're always like, I do 20,000 jobs. I'm the manager. I'm the content creator. I'm the photographer. I have to make all the marketing plans. I'm releasing my music. There's all these different aspects and pieces to the puzzle. So for artists like Summer, being able to have a team that's able to like deliver those things in real time, and then being able to just plan so far in advance is valuable. And I think a lot of artists in the community can kind of resonate with that. And then I didn't know that the fans were like really pushing for the album. Like, what? Tell me about that, because the project is very fan forward. Like, I'm just curious to hear what that's like, because that's a dream to be at that place.
It it's definitely a dream, but it is very interesting. Like these fans are not the nice fans that we know from back in the day, and they're very pushy and they want what they want, and we love that they're so opinionated, because I think there's also a brilliance in what the fans want, and listening to them is important. But yeah, no, they're really pushy. I mean, I think they cursed us out up until the project dropped about giving the name out a year ago, and then the project happened a year ago. They cussed us out. They're very passionate when it comes to that, but they're so important and they're needed because they're the ones that's going to drive this project.
Yeah, wow, that's wild. And there were some things y'all did along the way, and I think it probably this is a big part of why y'all made certain decisions. You know, one of them being when y'all had the DSP rollout and y'all blurred the albums, the past albums, and different things like that. There were a lot of things y'all did to kind of drip the project over that 18-month period. And can y'all kind of talk about, obviously, a big piece of it is the fans were demanding it, but we're also went into the decision to do those things. And then what was the reaction for specific, things like blurring out the album cover and different things like that?
Uh, I will say that I'm glad you brought that up because I think we're going to talk about some DSP things that we did, that were big, flashy, expensive things. But I do want to highlight how many things you can do on your own when you think of the DSPs like a social media platform. And that's what we do here. You can everybody acts like your page isn't your page on Spotify and it's not your page on Apple. It's your page the same way it's your Instagram page. And so for me, one, I'm like deliver anything. We can deliver anything we want to Spotify. That's Summer's platform as well. So I think when we all the way back when we first teased the title, we delivered her Laylo number as a song name and did a snippet of Heart of a Woman. And that's something normally we did post it on Instagram, but I was like, if we're going to post it on Instagram, why wouldn't we also post it on the DSPs where her fans listen to her music and they'll be alerted that something's new out. And I know we'll talk about the Laylo number some more, but that's one of the first ways that we got it out there. As far as the blurring of the album covers, shout out to Interscope Production and everybody that does production. It was not an easy ask. It sounds easy, but it's not, to change out all of those covers. That was really a plan in reverse because we knew we needed to wait until our 2-week rollout window to put the album cover out, because that was really like one of the that was a big piece of the puzzle for us. That was a huge asset that we didn't want to waste. We went up with the pre-order with all blurred art to try to, eventize the fact that you're not going to see this cover until we want you to. And so basically, because we knew we had to do that, we went back and wanted to just kind of connect the story and tie the knot that, hey, this new album, when you get it to pre-order or for your countdown page, it's going to be blurred. So we did a little like sneak peek by blurring the rest of the cover so you could find that connectivity. But it's in reverse. That wasn't some big idea that we had 6 months ago. We can't wait to blur the covers. It was more like, how are we going to make this shit make sense? And not, Alexis get further cussed out by the people because they're like, where's the cover girl? We don't want this shit. So a lot of the times, again, we found a new problem and we found a new solve. And I will say one of the things that is so great on the digital side that we did, we made a lot of things news. Alexis, I think you can speak to the strategy of every single thing we did. We made news. But this thing specifically, I feel like was something for the core fans. And everything, sometimes you have to leave something for them. And this was like, if you saw it, you saw it. If you know, you know. If you were listening to the catalog, you felt it. And I felt like it was important that we didn't make a huge deal out of that. It was like, if you're a core Taylor Swift fan, you caught up and caught on to this. And so we wanted to make sure Summer's fans that, are really in it feel like they got rewarded with something too. But Alexis, you're the reason why everybody knows about everything that we did. So I think you should speak to, how you kind of shined a light on every single piece of the execution.
Yeah, I think the name of the game now is just, to be honest, oversaturation. And we did make everything move. And, it started by being constantly on. We have a strategy where we're just constantly on. So every single thing that happened was new to their fans. And even if we were seeding it out or getting an influencer to pick it up, we made sure that every touch point you were reminded to go back to Summer Walker. So it was a really top of mind strategy for her, and just making sure that across Twitter, across Instagram, across TikTok, across her own pages, across the fan pages, that everyone had this information and it was looked at in news. And I know we're going to get into the fan pages, but they played such a big role in this as well as being the secondary mouthpiece from Summer.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to go into the fan pages because Summer has like such a tight fan base, and I think that's one of the hardest things now for artists to build is a fan base. Like she had like the fact that they were like, "Yo, we want this music. We're begging for this music." Like That's a beautiful thing as an artist to have fans, and I know it's a lot on your end. But I have a few thoughts around this. One of them is, what does like that fan community management look like for you all? She's on social media, she's in the comments. Y'all are doing like, how do you manage that digitally, and how are like, is there like an inner circle of fans, and just how do y'all stay on top of that? Because I know she has probably hundreds of thousands of fans across the world. So just really curious to kind of peel that back.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the first and most important things we did was building with the fan pages that have been shouting on her behalf. And I think it's so interesting because one of her biggest fan pages is run by this guy in Germany. And I find that so exciting because I'm like, wait, you're not like somebody from Atlanta that just like loves summer. I'm like, oh, so this is amazing. And working with those pages, one, and building relationships with them, we were able, one, to galvanize them to be excited, and we were able to share information with them, share news with them, share narratives with them, and they act as a secondary piece because, as we know, working with artists, they always don't want to post every single thing. And like, even back to the blurred image, like, that's not something Summer or any artist would normally want to post. So then we using these fan pages to drive the conversation and get people excited. So the pages, honestly, were like the second most important thing to this overall vision. And it's one, it's a way to attract new fans, but you're able to talk to those same fans because it's different when you're between a fan page and then seeding out information to a page like Spiritual World. These are people that may not be fans, but the people that follow the fan pages are there for Summer, and we know how to talk to them, and we know what narratives to bring. So I would say it was very important, one, building with the real pages, but also there was a part two where building with our own operated pages work together in tandem. So building off those narratives, and you can try things with fan pages. You can say, oh, this clip is cool. Let me test this out on the fan page. Is this important to go to a neighborhood talk? So we use the fan pages as our playground to talk to fans and get them excited. And even I know, like, internationally, like, it was important for us to grow and to continue to grow Summer as an international artist. So we have fan pages in South Africa, in the UK, and in Brazil, and we're galvanizing all these fans because R&B is big in those spaces too. So I think it was important, as well as her global strategy, to make sure that we have someone that can act as a news source in different territories.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that you brought up the international piece, because that's always the goal for artists, is to break through, in other countries and different things like that. What would you say, just from Alexis, from like a marketing perspective? How do you kind of reach those markets outside of the fan pages? What are there, different blogs or press outlets? Obviously, there's different playlists that feature music in those places. But I'm just curious, from a marketing perspective, how are y'all, targeting different, like, how do you even know where people are looking for music in other countries? And how do you, like, build relationships with those outlets and platforms to really help with artists that y'all work with?
I'll give you a couple of different ways. So one, I think is for the artists on here, it's important to look at your Spotify for artists, look at your YouTube analytics, look at your Instagram analytics, and see where it shows you where these people are. And especially for Spotify artists, it shows what fans are listening to your music. It shows you where you can continue to grow and where you have a really strong fan base. So I think, one, just actually using the data that's like provided to you is very important. Second, for example, Summer did a show in South Africa this year, and we knew that at the beginning of the year that this show was happening, and we know that we needed to start building her platform there and building her audience there leading up to the project. So, we worked with some fan pages to just create a Summer Walker essay fan page that was ran by a fan, and then we were able to give them content in order to like galvanize the fan base, because like the thing about fans is they want to feel important. So we were able to grow that page so successfully because we were talking directly to them and also working with other platforms in these specific places. So when it comes to seeding out, there's platforms that cover South African artists and cover artists that come to South Africa. So we worked with those platforms alone to also get that news out, because just like there's a neighborhood talk in the US, there's a shade borough in the UK. So like there's all these pages that you can work with to build out the narrative that you want. And when we started talking to the South African fans, they 100% talked back to us. And I think that was one of the greatest things that we did this year was building her fan pages in different areas. Yeah.
No, that's great. No, that's great. That's really good insight. And I want to talk like about from an indie artist perspective that may not have, as many fans. Do y'all think building a fan page, even if you're an artist just starting out, like, and you have some kind of motion, do you think just building and running your own fan page could be a good practice? We had a guest speaker on earlier today who works with influencers, and she was talking about there's like influencer pages that don't have images. They're like blank influencer pages where they're like run by kids and they just post content of artists, they're curators and different things. Do y'all think that's something that could work for an artist, building their own artistry and their platform is running their own fan pages?
I I I do believe it matters at what level you're at, because if you're just starting out, you should be using your own social media page as a fan page.
Hmm.
I think that a lot of time artists don't have time to do everything. So I think you should use your own page when you're starting off as a fan page. There's no rules to these things. And, some people are so precious with their Instagram. I'm only going to post once a week, but like, use your social media as a fan page, be your biggest fan. And then I think once you begin to start growing and you have that help, like, yeah, like why not use a secondary page where if you're not comfortable with posting something there, you can use it as a Finsta and it acts as a fan page. I think it's very important as you're building that you have multiple outlets where people can discover you at.
Yep, love that. So I want to talk about now. I want to get into like some of the specific fan activations that y'all did throughout the campaign. And one of the first ones I want to cover is y'all had the hotline, and it's y'all used. It sounds like y'all used Lalo for that number. And I think that's just a great idea because you're getting data. You're able to like get numbers and things that you can reconnect with the fans. You're also able to do something that's super unique. I haven't seen many artists do something as cool as she did with that hotline. So I want to like kind of for people that don't have context about that to kind of just show what the hotline was and then just kind of talk about, how was it received by fans and did that, experience, did that like help navigate different strategies about how to reconnect with fans? I'm going to show the video. Is that cool if I show the video or do you want to say?
Oh, do you want to play it?
Is that cool if I play it just so people
Yeah,
can
well, y'all got this all worked out. I love that.
yeah. Because I think it's really cool. So let me see. There it is. Let me play it. All right, here we go.
If you or a loved one has been affected by patiently waiting for Summer Walker's album Finally Over It to drop, you may be entitled to emotional compensation. For years, loyal fans have suffered through cryptic Instagram posts, unreleased snippets, an Apple Music podcast, and even a tour, all while Finally Over It remains unreleased. Side effects may include sliding down the wall to still over it, dancing way too fast to Bobby, and spinning the block with that situation chip you said you were over. Don't suffer in silence. Call 404-476-6404 today to ask Summer, where is the album? And receive a little bit of the relief you deserve.
So the answer to your question about how we came up with that specifically is I'm old, older than I look, and I at the time when Summer was, getting her ass beat by the fans about, girl, now you done told us that this album was coming. We do not believe you. It's done. This was us responding back in a way that, I think we think is so Summer. We always want to respond the way she would respond. She trolls, she pokes fun. She's like, I hear you, but y'all don't tell me what to do. And we respect that. But I think there was a point where we did know that we were playing around a little too much. And so when we were trying to fill some space between, we're like, we know the pre-orders dropping next week, but they don't, and they're mad. We filled the space with this relief and something for them to do. And we rewarded them with something else. And so we've been traveling this Lalo number kind of across different campaigns to build it, which I think we're almost at 100,000 people plus because of the amount of times we recycled it. One thing I'm going to say, just giving your fans your Lalo number one time is not enough. if you have any type of community number, putting it on one post on Instagram is not enough. If Summer Walker has to put that post, Alexis, where we do it, we post it on the tour, we delivered it to DSPs, we put it in
Broadcast channel.
everywhere, as in, like, y'all better save this number. But when I was thinking about how the fans actually feel about not having this album, it reminded me of the mesothelioma commercials from the 90s. They used to always come on like in the middle of the night, and they're like, if you have asbestos poison, whatever it was. It felt comforting, and like it was hilarious to me. So the joke was in there, but also it was like, hey, we want to do something for you. Summer's apologetic. She knows how hard you guys have been, whatever. We made a whole joke of it. But when they called the hotline, one thing about your community number, your Lalo number, whatever, it should feel transactional. The fans know that they're getting something, that you're getting something by them signing up. And so every time they called, we were very intentional about changing the voicemail to reward them with something back. So when you called the hotline, you got a little snippet of Get Your Boy, which wasn't out and nobody knew what it was, and then a personal message from Summer. So that was all really, again, us responding. Sometimes marketing is like preparing and anticipating and putting things out there that people don't expect, but a lot of it now is responding and reacting. And we were just tired of getting cussed out at that point. So we wanted to give ourselves a little time. And you guys should pull, if you've been alive long enough, you've seen cool things. You don't have to reinvent the wheel to have an idea. There's barely anything new under the sun. So many cool things have happened in the last 50 years since we've had technology and internet and TV and all of that stuff. It's all still there for you to amplify and to make it new. A lot of people have no idea what the mesothelioma commercial is. So for half of her fans, it's like, this is so creative. I've never seen anything like this before. And for anybody who used to watch BET, it's nothing new. So that's that.
I think that's so spot on, though, because I even think about when you're building a brand and as an artist, it's what do I resonate and connect with that we're similar. Fans see themselves in the artist. And by you doing that, you're pulling on an emotional tether that not only for new people that are discovering something new, but for people that have a connection point. Like you said, I used to watch BET. I remember being up late at night, way too late, watching BET and being like, yo, there's some stuff on here. But there was also, like you said, those random commercials that, and that's why I think it's special as an artist to try and experiment with things that have that emotional resonance. What's your favorite music? That's why sampling music and doing remixes of old songs and putting it into new things connects. And then these young kids are like, yo, this is a dope song I've never heard. It's like, yo, that sample was from the 70s. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is just another example of be authentic in who you are. Summer does that great. Like, you just see her. She is not any person else besides Summer Walker, who she is in every aspect. It was really cool just to see all the content and things and being like, this is who she is. And that's why people love her, is because she's so authentic. She's not trying to be something she's not. And I think this really is just a great example of that. One thing I wanted to touch on with this piece is what was like the other great thing is when you're having this lie detector test, fans are sharing that. They're like sharing these experiences. And that's also kind of building this massive web of more people talking about the project, continually to get in that zeitgeist. And I think the most important thing as artists is like, you do have to be top of mind, front of mind, and like pushing that number constantly is like such a great thing. And like, congrats on 100,000 like people that have like, to connect with that. That's like very impressive. So love that campaign. Another one I want to just talk about is just finally y'all got to announcing the rollout and y'all have this lie detector test. And that's like very, very vulnerable thing, but also it's also a thing I've never seen done before. And I think y'all did a lot of things that really touched on, it was a theme that was very constant with y'all doing different things that really had this cool emotional resonance, but were also showing Summer who she was at a deeper level. So what kind of went behind the decision of like that creative of building a lie detector test? And I'll show like a little clip of it really quickly, but just curious, like, from that perspective, and then what was the reception? Like, how did people receive? Finally, they're getting to know the album date. They're finally getting to hear it. It's just like this long drip, but it was like, finally, we're hearing it. And it was like such a cool way to launch it. So I'm going to share a clip and then we'll want to just kind of discuss that. Here we go. One sec. There we go.
Summer Walker, and yes, I do.
Great. We'll go ahead and get you connected to the instrument. The next one will be your fingers. Great. And the last one will be the arm cup, and that'll go actually on that arm.
Absolutely not.
Truthful. Are there more than 12 songs on the album?
Yes.
Truthful. Are you and Chris Brown going to collaborate?
Maybe.
Based on this, it looks like we are leaning towards a truthful answer. The next question is, are you single?
Am I single? Yes.
I'm going to ask that question one more time. Are you single?
Yeah, I'm single. What's the hold up?
That looks like a lie, but I'm going to ask the question one more time just to be sure.
I don't have no man. I got good friends.
Are you single?
I am single. Lying on me. I don't know.
Okay, there we go.
Period.
Yeah, no, I think it's just funny, and it's like that is it. Like everybody wants to know these things, So yeah, just curious, like what went into that creative, and like I think people love that. But I just think it's such a brilliant way to announce the Raw. And at the end of the video, she does say like the album's coming out in a date.
Yeah, I think it was it was received really well because one, they got a lot of different answers to questions that they've been wanting to know, but the most important thing was at the end that she released the date and finally confirmed that this project is indeed coming. So fans were very excited, and I think that it answered the question and it made it exciting. So yeah, it was received in a really major way because that was the first time she finally said out of her mouth that the project is dropping and this is the date. So it gave fans something to look forward to, and that's when they knew it was game time.
Yeah, as far as creating it, I really wish me and Alexis, other ride or die, was here with us, but he's in Africa, Justice. We all have a group chat called the pregame because I think just marketing and A&R don't work together like they should anymore, and we don't have that issue. Our marketing team, marketing, digital, A&R, we're all locked in, and everybody, nobody just does one thing. And so I think we were challenging ourselves. If I can be really honest, we were also inspired by the press conference that Lady Gaga did with Spotify. When we see other people do cool things, it doesn't make us mad. We want to compete. I think marketing is a competitive game. And so it was like, man, that was like such a great idea. How can we eventize summer, saying this is the date, the thing that they've all been waiting for? I think doing it live, something Alexis has been working through with summer, being comfortable with being live was very important for this too, because we wanted it to feel like an event. But the idea really came from us wanting to compete in the marketplace about how she could get a certain amount of attention, how we could make sure that the piece was shareable. Something being shareable now, I think probably is like our number one goal for every single asset we make. Very rare that we're putting out something that doesn't move. Static images, like they better be great. And we have some static images that really helped us. And so we can talk about what, them being great means, but we wanted it to be shareable. We wanted people to feel seen, heard. She mentions a lot of things from the past albums, again, to go back and reconnect that this is a trilogy. This is how she feels about it. These are answers to questions you've been asking her whole career, but ultimately, here's what you've been waiting for. And so we launched the pre-order that day as well. Her site, which was whereisthealbum.com, to keep up that question, but so that we could own it. The where is the album was something we were being tortured with by the fans. And we took it and we stole their narrative away from them and we owned it because, we reacted. We wanted to respond properly. So now it's not a complaint, it's our website. And we, kind of turn into something negative into something positive. But that was really us wanting to be the best. And we saw somebody who we consider the best do something that motivated us to have an idea, a great idea about how we could put Summer in that same position.
Love it. Yeah, that's great.
And she'd be lying. She was lying about getting the album, and so we had to set the record straight.
Had to help her out to the lie detector test. Only way. So I want to talk about partnerships and just like, y'all worked with a lot of different platforms across this. You worked with Apple Radio for Over It Radio, which I want to touch on. But before that, I want to really talk about the Finally Over It escape room that y'all did. And I was able to watch the live stream of that. And that was a really cool event. You guys really went into it with, allowing fans to get close to Summer. Y'all had dope music playing. You were playing her catalog. Fans were able to experience that with her. They were able to do the escape room and then get little bits of the music. It's like a nice little treasure hunt for the fans. And then being able to do our first live stream with YouTube in that capacity is really cool to really push that out there for fans that even aren't there. They're still able to experience that. So it's I'm sure that was a very complex to do an event at that scale. But Amber, would love just to kind of hear from you, how did that all come together? What were like the things that were needed from the team to execute that? What were the drivers y'all all contributed as a team at LVRN? And then also, how was YouTube, as a partner in that process? And would just really love to kind of understand that.
So the truth about that event is it was something completely different before it happened. One thing I will say to the people who are watching, working with partners is an incredible thing, and I think they're all amazing. But one of the best ways to activate with them is coming with your own idea. I don't think with any external partner, just the way that we do things at LVRN, we're never coming to someone saying, oh, please help us. We have an album coming out. What do you think we should do? We are very big on making sure that every partner has something that they can own. And so in this case, Spotify, they got to own the feature reveal. YouTube, we wanted them, Apple got to own the podcast and Summer kind of positioning the conversation that she was starting to have. And YouTube, we wanted them to own the fan engagement piece because we do think that that's what they're best at. And so we actually came to YouTube with an idea for a haunted house. This was supposed to happen on Halloween in Texas. It was going to be ghouls and broke men and all types of things popping out, scaring the girls, which was a fantastic idea that I think Justice woke up one day and was like, I got it. And we were like, oh God. And it was going to be so much fun. And we went down ahead of YouTube even saying, hey, we can do this. And Summer loves that scary movie scene. She talks about it all the time. And so I was like, why don't you just be Drew Barrymore and have fun with it and do, reshoot the commercial. So we went and we shot that commercial, and then we got back with YouTube and they were like, it is just not enough time before Halloween for us to do a haunted house, guys, sorry. And we were like, damn, well, we shot this great expensive commercial, so now what do we do? And instead of, do not die on a hill with your ideas. Shit doesn't work out sometimes. You need to be able to evolve. And so before we lost that partnership or got down, we say, what else we can do? Let's think about what we're trying to sell here. Let's think about what we want the fans to be able to do. Why don't we make it an escape room? That's scary. There's still ways to put the theme of the men that you're running away from in there. But also we get to do this other thing that we have to do is connect the dots between these albums. Now you can navigate through every world that Summer has ever built to the end. And so we kind of just evolved our idea into something new to maintain the partnership and to keep rolling, because we have a responsibility to our artists to make sure that things work out. And then YouTube, because I will never take an idea away from somebody, we told them that and they said, we'll raise you one, look at this dump truck. And we were like, yes, ma'am, we want it tomorrow, get it going. And I think that, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to try to compete with us on ideas if we didn't come with one. And I will say that obviously it was very expensive, but also it was something that all came together. Alexis, 2 weeks, not realistic, very crazy, and came together from us being on the phone with them every single day. So and more. Please add. It was a nuts 2 weeks.
Wow. And then what, like the fans, I mean, like y'all were in the room, how was the energy? Like people probably were like excited about that and like being able to experience that, like the work y'all put in didn't go to waste. So just curious, how the fans received it, what the response was after. Would love to hear.
I'm gonna start at the dump truck when we went to Morehouse. We got there and the line was wrapped around the building. I mean, honestly, it was something that I think was so great, and for people to show up for summer in that type of capacity, I think was really amazing. These fans waited. I think summer was there from 12 to 2. These fans waited in line for 2 hours and more just to meet Summer and throw something at the truck. And Summer was such a great trooper for being there with the fans and opening up herself in that way. So the response was really great, and the fans were so sweet. So I think that was a really amazing way to kick off the day and to make sure that we're giving something to multiple groups of fans because everybody can't make it to the escape house. So to give them something right on their campus, I think was really great. And Summer's always really great in that way. And then as far as the escape room, it was such a great moment. One, because once they got through these escape rooms, they were able to listen to "Fuck My Type," which was again, we always want to give the fans something, and we really think that's an important piece. But also, Summer was at the DJ booth singing all of her old songs, even played Balla. So like they were able to sing their hearts out with the artist, and like just to see their faces, I think that was so really great. And Summer was a trooper, and the fans are excited. I mean, imagine singing one of your favorite songs with your favorite artist, and they were so close, and the response was really great across the board.
I love it. So for people that don't have context, I'm gonna just quickly show the video from the dump truck, just because I think it's great. Like I think it's cool to have that visual piece to it. So this is the dump truck. I remember seeing this and I was like, this is crazy.
Service. We'll be riding all around Atlanta coming to pick up your ex's stuff. Come on with me. We're going to start at Morehouse and we're going to keep it going. Make sure you have it ready. You don't have to hold on to anything any longer because we are coming to pick that shit up. Welcome to my farm.
Yo, get it out. Get it out of there.
Donovan, can we just say too? I always want to make sure that we make sure people understand that although that's a huge activation and something very cool, for Summer to be able to do, and it costs money. I don't ever want to act like things didn't. That ideology of having something for every DSP, that's for anybody. Independent artists, doesn't have to cost, just making sure that whatever that DSP is great at. So on Spotify, if you want to use Canvas for a creative idea where you give people a snippet of something, or you give the date there, or you just give information using what they're good at, everybody, you have access to Canvas, you have access to your bio, you could type something in there for your fans to go find. Apple's great with video, so you can deliver an emix bundle, which we do a lot, which anybody who's going through a distributor can do, and you can leave a special video for your fans that counts as a song on your project. And so there's so many things that are accessible to you no matter what level of artist you are. I just think that I want to make sure that you guys know that these ideologies or the thinking isn't because you're Summer Walker. It could be anybody. You just have to get creative.
Yeah, I love that. And Amber, like I would love to touch on this because you do marketing across the label and you do have artists that aren't as massive as Summer but are just really talented artists. What are some things that y'all have done, for more emerging artists that maybe, have a few songs out, they have some type of audience on social media? How can artists, potentially approach a DSP for opportunities? How do you build those relationships? Are there any best practices that you can kind of share in that capacity too?
I would say for building a relationship with the DSPs, that sometimes is just as hard as for us as it is for anybody. It's just people there, right? Yeah. And you can get their emails and you can try to run into them and do all of that stuff. So even for us, we turn around and get told budgets are tight. And so I would, I don't actually want to make it about the relationships. It's about you getting to know the platforms and understanding how you can use them and what you can do on them. I think is most important, because when we can't have that conversation for a Belly Gang Kush, Belly Gang Cushington's one of our artists. He's a rapper from Atlanta. And if he was, let's say, 21 Savage level, when we did his Brick White Tee, he's a street rapper who, was popular for selling things you shouldn't sell. And if he was a bigger artist, we would have sold this wrapped white tee that we made as a Spotify fans first, right? That would have been so cool, and it would have looked like he did this big thing. But because he wasn't there, because we did that activation when he first started, we just did it ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we did the merch. We wrapped the white tees. One of our lovely people in the office, Kennedy, she stayed up for days wrapping these white tees in saran wrap and putting them in a bag so they looked like what they were supposed to look like. And we had him run around the city with them. And really, maybe for less than $500, me and Carlin, who heads our creative, went out and shot a promotional video for the shirts. We used Meta Ray-Ban glasses and just like a little DJI camera, and made it look like police was busting the truck. And in the truck in the back was a bunch of his white tees. And all of that stuff, like, we really did it like we had nothing, you know. And those shirts, I feel like, spoke really highly of him as an artist and how intelligent he was. He treated it like when Nipsey did the $100 CD because we sold a brick white tee for $100. He made a freestyle to go along with it, so that's how we announced that he was going to have the white tees, and he just used everything that he had to make it happen, and we didn't really depend on anybody else to make it news. I think Alexis, if you want to talk to his YouTube short strategy, I think just building something up for an independent artist too, where they make themselves look important, so people believe that what they're doing is important, really matters. So I say all that to say, there's some tips and tricks, but there's some stuff that y'all can do by yourself if you get creative enough.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, and just for his YouTube short strategy, I think, to echo what Amber is saying, that using everything as a means to be seen is very important. So for his YouTube short strategy, I think one of the hardest things even for me is cracking artists' YouTube short strategy at any level they're at. This is a newer platform, and we're having to find what works there. So we just basically was like, okay, let's use his YouTube shorts as a place where they can get news from him. So the same thing that we would seed out on like a Say Cheese or Our Generation, we started a template in a format where we just took everything and made it news. And I think that's the same strategy in a different way that we did with Summer. So with his, we use his YouTube Shorts as just a platform for news. So if he links up with Future, if he links up with Rod Wade, if he sells $100 shirt, if he does this, everything was news. So we made sure that we did a consistent template that has a headline, it has a picture of him, and then it has a picture of whatever else is going on, and then you go to the video. So this way, when people are just casually strolling on YouTube Shorts, and most times you just see the normal content of just a video, maybe like a smaller headline, but you see this thing that is very different from everything else on YouTube Shorts. And so now you want to stop because it's being presented to you as news. So that strategy now we just use consistently, and we've been able to grow his YouTube subscribers and the engagement overall in just 1 year because of this very consistent strategy and making sure that everything is news in this top of mind oversaturation strategy.
And this is all organic. You're not using any promo towards it. It's just straight up shorts, organic, which is amazing.
And his shorts, honestly, his shorts alone do like probably the best in the company. Wow. And he's not even the biggest artist, and it's because this consistent strategy. And we built the template right in Canva. You can build it with the free subscription. And yeah, we just make everything news, and we reuse all this content that's happening in real time. But I think that also talks into the importance of content.
Yeah. And another thing we've been talking about at the company, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with the team in Troy, and we were talking about just like using an example. Everything you started the conversation off with this, Alexis, is you got to be in front of people. You have to constantly be, because there's so much going on. There's so much noise in the world. You're fighting with politics. You're fighting with what's going on in this person's life, what celebrity's doing this. And obviously, this is the biggest example you could give, but a Taylor Swift, and how Taylor Swift, everything she does is a story. It's a news. It's a part of an era. It's a part of an arc. And any artist can do the same thing. And this is just a great example of, yo, I'm in a studio with this artist and I'm cooking, we're making music. That's a news story. I met this person. I'm on the streets and I'm handing out these brick white tees, just all those things that keeps people interested. It keeps people along the ride. It keeps this constant narrative going where you're building that world around that artist. So I love hearing that type of strategy, because I think that's very important for artists to think, what is it that you do? What is it that is like fascinating and interesting about you that makes people even want to listen? Because you aren't owed an audience, so you have to find things that kind of keep that connection and through point where people can see themselves in you and be actually interested. So I love that. And I also love that each strategy y'all do across social media is specific to each artist and it's not a blanket. I think so many times we hear post this many times a day, you shoot this type of content in this style, and it's like that may not work for everyone. So very, very awesome to hear that. And I think it's very helpful for people in the room to kind of hear that. So one thing I also want to touch on as we wrap it up, are y'all okay on time? Like y'all have time for like one more question and we can go into, okay. So one thing I wanted to touch on, hold on, there's a little echo, 1 second. So one thing I wanted to touch on is the influencer strategy, because that's such a key piece to, like we were talking about, how do you get it in front of as many people as possible? How do you break into different ecosystems, different audience interests? And influencers are a very important piece. So Alexis, just from, your experience working on this project with Summer, how are you able to build, relationships with TikTok influencers? How are you finding these influencers? What were the requirements for, hey, this is somebody we think would work and align well with Summer for this type of content piece or for this specific song? We'd just love to understand, how y'all approach, partnering with influencers.
Yeah, definitely. One, I want to shout out our team at Interscope because we work really well together, and they're always a really big help when it comes to influencers. But at LVRN, we look at influencers as more than just a person that makes a TikTok video to your song. Like, these are partners, and these are people that, like, we know now they can break a song, break an artist, break a project. So we look at them as partners. And just for a couple examples, Body from Summer went viral this year, a song that came out years ago, and it was driven by this great guy that just made up a dance and took it to the moon. And with us, it's really important to build those relationships. So immediately I reached out and was like, hey, thank you for this dance, but we want to go more. We want to do more than just like pay you a couple more dollars to keep doing this dance, but we want to fly you out to the show in LA when Summer was on tour with Chris, and we want you to do the dance with Summer, because now this makes it a full circle moment. It's not just about, oh, thanks for doing these videos, but now we're building the gap between just what's happening on TikTok and this actually happening in real life, because the TikTok world and the Instagram world and the Twitter world are all different worlds, and they are actually not connected. It's like a tunnel. So I think we think it's really important for that we treat influencers like partners. And now, we've worked with him throughout this project, and now he creates dance trends to other songs. And we have this partnership that we can use that's helpful for both the influencer and the artist. So we look at partnership in that way when it comes to influencers, and we don't just keep them on TikTok, but we like to connect with them in real life. And then I would say, even for the Spotify reveal, I think one of the things that always works really well for Summer's rollouts, even from the beginning, is that we partner with really strategic people that can continue the conversation. So with the Spotify reveal, we were just in our group chat, like, okay, like, who could reveal this? Like, who makes sense? And I threw out so many names. I'm like, oh, this person. And we were just talking. I'm like, oh, wait. I'm like, I think the Poor Minds. I'm like, Poor Minds would be great. I'm like, these are funny girls. We work with them in some capacity with our other artists. And when I said it, everybody was like, that's actually a great idea. And I'm like, oh, yay. So we reached out to them, and they're so sweet, and they were so happy to do it. And I think that's the importance with building these relationships with influencers and looking at them for more than just what they can do is give you a TikTok video, but you can work with them and utilize them in so many different ways.
I love it. I love that, hearing that. I love that y'all think of them as partners and building long-term, relationships with them. And I just think it's really cool how y'all even brought that influencer out to the show and they were able to dance. That was probably such a big moment for that person to be able to do that. And a lot of people are just making content in their rooms, and they're also fans of the artists. They're invested in these artists, and that's something they're never going to forget. And Amber, I know you kind of came off mic. Was there something that you also wanted to add to that?
I was just going to tell Alexis to touch on the power of just DMing the influencers. I want to keep making sure that everyone knows that these ideas range. And of course, everybody wants to do a $25,000 TikTok campaign if they could, but it don't even be taking all that sometimes. And so I would love for you to talk about the reality of working with influencers as a partner.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think I DM an influencer probably every other day, and it could be someone that has like reacted to the song in some way, or even someone that I think that we should build a partnership with. So I think a lot of times too, in these bigger, like when you're working with a label. A lot of people don't think that they can be hands on, and they think, oh, I'll have the vendor do it, or I'll have the artist do it. But there's so much power in reaching out to these people directly, and usually they will respond. And back to the influencer Kirby that we worked with for Body, just talking to him, he was like, I actually have never been to a concert before, and I've never been to LA. So I was just like, wow, I think I was so honored that like we can work with them in this way, and being somebody that like he can reach out to, I thought was really important. But like, yeah, it just really takes a DM. Like these things are free and they don't cost. And a lot of people, a lot of influencers need content ideas anyway. So they're always open to that. And I think too, like linking up with influencers is a really important piece to make the overall story so much better.
One thing I want to kind of dive into is what's your strategy? Like what how do you reach out? Are you just like, hey, I've seen your video, I'm working on a song. Like how do you like what is the conversation starter? Like what are you typing to them? And then also, what do you do to find influencers? I know some people have recommended like starting a TikTok or Instagram that's fresh, and that being a specific algorithm where they're actually liking and following videos that are influencers, so they can build this algorithm of music curators so that they know, hey, if I go on this specific Instagram account, this is the type of content that I'm going to see that's going to be influencers. So I'm just curious, for artists in the community that maybe want to do research on influencers or start to do outreach for collaborations, what's a good strategy around that?
Yeah. One, the strategy I would say is I think that's a great way. I definitely have trained my algorithm on TikTok. It only shows me things about all of the artists I work with, nothing else. Like I see everything first because I've interacted and trained my algorithm this way. But I also think it's important to follow what's happening in the community. So if there's an artist that you want to compare yourself to and you see that their song is picking up some steam in any on any level, follow the artist, like follow the song, follow the people that are making TikToks to these songs, the music curators that are making videos to these songs. Follow what's happening and reverse engineer from the beginning. That is a thing that we always do because we're always learning as well. So I'm constantly reverse engineering, looking through what's happening. If there's a song that's taken out, who was the influencer that made it pop off? What, was there a music curator? Were there edits that they did? I think it's important to do your research in that way on top of training your algorithm. But sometimes you got to get in the weeds and like look for these influencers yourself because it's a whole world out there.
Love it. All right, so we're gonna start taking some questions. Amber, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say to answer your question about the DM, hey, I'm Donovan. I love your content. I have a song called XYZ. Send them the Spotify link. How much do you charge to make videos like this one? And maybe send them one of their own videos that you like. They will respond.
And like you'll be surprised. Like some people are like, oh, just send me $50.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, and it could go at $50 could change your life if it's the right content piece. And I also know that you can also give recommendations too of like you mentioned, Amber. Here's the type of content that I like, the idea you did, or create something. They also like to collaborate and get involved in, hey, what do you want to do? How do you want this to be represented through content? Which is also something I've seen a lot of artists do.
And negotiate. It's just real people. So if somebody goes, oh, I do one video for 500, and you're like, man, I only have 250, they might go, okay, let's do it. Because like Alexis said, this is somebody's job. Yeah. So they might come back to you sometimes and be like, hey, you still got that 250? Because it's a, so you don't know if you don't DM. So just start talking to people. I wish I had the internet, in IG in this way 15 years ago. It's a tool and people should use it.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually found out about a platform today called Co-Brand, where they have like tons of influencers that you can reach out to directly. There's another one, I think it's called Kepler or something like that. So there's like these platforms, collaborate or something, where you can actually like go on these platforms and actually see influencers, and you can like directly connect with them without even having to DM them. So that's another thing to kind of look at too, is like, are there platforms that have aggregations with influencers as artists? But I want to open up the floor to questions. So I think there's people that may have some questions. So if you have a question, yeah, Breaker's another one. That one is a little different now, where you have to actually, it's like more for bigger budgets, but Breaker's a great one. So let's see, here's a question here. I'm going to show this question. So this one is coming from Kairisha Bowman. I don't know if I'm saying the name right. I'm sorry. When it came time for the rollout of Finally Over It, let me bring that back up again. When it came to the time for Finally Over It, how did you create the PR packages and content for the album for influencers to promote?
Sorry, say that again. Oh wait, you're
There it is. Yeah. So when it came time for the rollout of Finally Over, how did you create the PR packages and connect them to the album for influencers to promote?
Oh yeah, so we worked with our partner at Interscope, and they were able to connect with some really great brands that we felt like fit Summer's world. And then when it came to the influencer pieces, we really worked in tandem with like one people that we know are just general fans of Summer, because we want to make sure that we're always being fan first and leading there, and then also working with other influencers that fit the aesthetic of what we're trying to sell. So we want to just make sure that we're utilizing people that are true fans of Summer, and they'll be able to really benefit from a PR box.
Awesome. This one is so this one's coming from Haley Feinstein. Do you have any tips for scaling? I'm probably gonna have to hit this again because it's kind of a longer question. But do you have any? Let me do 10 seconds. So, do you have any? Oh, go ahead. You read it, Amber.
Oh yeah, I see it, for scaling back massive ideas to make them more affordable. Um, I think shooting something that costs $100,000 and shooting something that costs $100, like sometimes the difference is in what type of camera you use. What I appreciate right now is that content does not have to be super high quality, and a lot of the content that works, crazy enough, like we struggle to try to make content that looks more authentic. And so I will say one thing, Haley, is to flip your idea into making it something that could be more organic or authentic. I think sometimes our first mind is to make something cinematic, because that is, it'll be elevated and, that's going to cost. But how can you make this idea real? And that usually will save you a little budget. I don't know if you guys are seeing all of the videos, across, they're starting on Snapchat, but you'll see an artist look like they're getting into a fight or something on the street. And when you see a video that looks like a Snapchat video of someone get into a fight, you usually watch because you want to see what the fight is about. And then, after about 5 seconds, it turns into the artist rapping or singing their song. And it's like, damn, they got me. They would not have got me if it looked cinematic from the start. And so sometimes just being real and being organic is like the easiest way to get more attention than what that really expensive video would have cost. Because we've spent money on things that nobody watched. And I'm glad that that authentic look is working. I think the dump truck idea, we paid a pretty penny for that. But I think if you take a big idea, literally, like you said, and just scale it back. If your uncle, had a pickup truck and you were like, oh, okay, cool, I want to do this. And let's say, I don't know if you have a group of friends, or if you were a college student who makes music, and you could gather some people at your own school to come out and support you, put some flyers up for your dump truck, get a bullhorn. We didn't even have a bullhorn. We should have had a bullhorn. Get a bullhorn out there, tell everybody, come throw your excess stuff away. That same activation could have been presented for, renting a U-Haul truck for the day. I think that a lot of our ideas, like I said, they're inspired. We're very rarely reinventing the wheel. Our Spotify commercial with the Poor Minds Girls for the Future reveal, I was watching Blink twice one day, and I love that movie. And there's a scene in it where the two girls at the beginning, they're waitresses, and they're just being friends, and they're talking in the background. And I'm so interested in their conversation. And when you go out to watch the real movie, all the, bells and whistles and stuff, I was like, the most impactful part of this scene was those two girls showing their relationship. And so that whole Feature of Love video is based off of that scene in Blink Twice. And when we were looking for those girls that had the natural relationship, like Alexis understanding what the goal is and saying, hey, these Poor Minds girls, they really were waitresses when they came up, and it made all of this super intentional. And I think if you think about the intent of what you're trying to make more than how much it costs to make something, you will ultimately begin to scale it back, because it's all possible, rather than making it seem from the start that it's not doable, that, oh, just because something costs, I got to change my mind. Just don't not do your idea, adjust and be willing to evolve. I hate to throw an idea away. But I think that sometimes we run away from really cool things we could do because we don't have $50,000, and really good ideas are not expensive. And we believe that around here. We're an independent company as well. Really, really great ideas are not expensive.
Yep. I've seen people do crazy stuff with an iPhone. You can do it with anything. Just an iPhone, a tripod, you get a cheap drone. You can make very high quality stuff, and just stuff that's like more natural and authentic. So I love that. This question is coming from Miriam. So she says, how do you mobilize your fans properly if you haven't if you have a following but you haven't released music in a while?
Talk to them. Yeah, you just need to talk to them. I think a lot of artists have all these fans and they do not talk to them. They don't talk to their fans, and people can tell. And there's so many tools and free features that you can use, like a broadcast channel, like a YouTube Shorts. There's so many ways that you can talk to your fans, but I think the way that you get them excited is by just talking to them and giving them information and giving them snippets and giving them things that they would be excited about. But starting first with just communicating and finding a way that you can galvanize your fans. I think broadcast channel is one of the really greatest ways that it feels like fans are that you're talking to your fans. And then there's Laylos, but there's all these free things where if you just start talking to them, they will respond back.
Yeah. Another thing I would say too that I think is a cool strategy is, like you said, talking to your fans, also DMing them every day. Just DM 10 people who love you, who are talking to you. Something that we talked about in Billie Eilish's case study, she did this crazy campaign where she put all of her followers and her close friends. Like, put your biggest fans and your close friends, and message them, connect with them. But they're humans. They want to feel like you're talking to them and connecting with them. So yeah, I think thinking of fans as just people who are supporters of your music rather than a fan,
Yeah.
also helps. So let's see. Bunch of questions coming in. I'm gonna try to. All right, so this is a good one. And this kind of can go even to a Laylo list. Laylo. What are some of the best ways for independent artists to build an email list? And I know y'all have done that with the Laylo, which is very creative.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways to just get emails and start that list. One would be Laylo and just getting people to sign up, because what you want to do is basically funnel the information to share with them. So Laylo, you can outright ask these people for their emails too. It's like talking to the fans, I think, is the most important thing. So there's a couple of different tools that you can use to funnel emails, but once you get that, I think they're just constantly communicating with them through whatever source you want to, I think, is pretty simple. Amber, hop in if you want.
Yeah. Oh, the one thing is just don't ask one time. Anytime you have the opportunity to collect data, you should. If you guys go to a website, you go to adidas.com, as soon as the website opens, they ask you for something. You should treat your interaction with your fans the same way. And there's, this is not email collection, but I do want to say, if you are not using ManyChat and you are trying to get people to do anything, and I don't care if 10 people comment on your post, ManyChat is the greatest tool in the world. If you don't have ManyChat, you can use it on Linktree. Linktree now has it has the service for you to be able to auto DM. And so if somebody comments, you can do it for a post. You can do it on every post. If you want somebody to comment something specific, they comment and you immediately DM them something, and you will see greater engagement on your post, one, by asking people to do something, but then rewarding them with something. So Donovan, when you were saying DM your fans, you can do that. Or there's so many easy ways out now. You do a great post and go, hey, if you guys, type in Brown to get XYZ, and everybody will just do that because it's a call to action. And then you're immediately sending them a link to your music. You can send them whatever the hell you want. ManyChat, Linktree. Please, I'm begging. It's not a secret. Get engaged.
ManyChat is great. We use it on all our posts at Venice.
Yeah, y'all used it here. We got every time somebody types summer, we got a little notification. I was like, okay, they're gonna be up in there tomorrow.
Oh, hey, they were. It's packed. Like we had to expand to YouTube just so because the room got filled up so quick. Yeah, people really wanted to hear this, and I feel like a lot of people got a lot from this. So we'll take a few more questions and then we'll wrap it up. So let's go to this one from Sage. So Sage B is asking, are there key elements that you use through marketing to prep fans for growth, the growth the artist will have? Or do you let things happen organically and utilize conversations to reshape the narrative around the music?
That is such a good question. And it's both. You have to position yourself for the conversations that you want to have in the way that you want to be received. I'm going to use a real time example because I don't really know where he's going with it yet, but I'm intrigued. I don't know if anybody's seeing what Vic Mensa's been doing on Instagram, but he's making some of the best content that I've ever seen. The type of conversation that he's having, he'll go pick an orange off the tree and then come for 2 minutes and tell you about something that's it's self-help, but coming from him, it feels organic and real and authentic. And so I watch all his videos, and so now I'm whatever I thought about Vic Mensa before, now if he comes to me with an album about mental health and taking care of yourself, I feel like I will take some advice from him now. And he has positioned himself for me to believe that he is the type of person that could give me some advice or knows what he's talking about because he's been dedicated to making this type of content. And so now I'm in. And so I think, there's a part of it after where you react and you respond accordingly to the narratives. On Summerside, we sometimes get hit with a lot of surprise narratives and we respond. But positioning the deal with the Apple for Overt Radio was our first way of positioning Summer as someone who has grown and is working through her social anxiety, and to show how much, one, to show the strong relationships that she has with other women, that she's a girl's girl, and really just showing that she could do this thing, that she could talk. And she was producing that show herself by the end of it. And we wanted everybody to see this is the type of conversation she's going to have. But look at her, this girl who never used to do an interview, she's interviewing people, right? So you need to set people up and get them ready for what you want them to receive. And that's having vision, but everyone can't see the same vision as you. So once you have the vision, back up and work backwards so people are following you where you want to go and where you're trying to take them. But you don't want to be responding to narratives. That means you're not in control of your narrative, and you always want to be in control of what people think and feel about you and how you're being perceived, and you can. That's called building a brand.
Yeah, spot on. All right, so we got this question. I think there's another one. This one is coming from Zania, I think. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Leon, that's my dad's name. His birthday today. Were there any industry changes that impacted your rollout plans for better or worse?
So many.
Times are changing every day. It's like,
I'm like, Alexis, well, okay, to talk about this then, the two of us. I don't think this is an industry change, but this is a generational change that we're still working through. I feel like for the last 10 years, we're the people that do it. We're telling the artists, you got to be relatable. You got to be relatable. People want to know what you ate for breakfast. People want to know everything about you. This is how you connect. And now the artists have become so relatable that the fans are like, if I tweet at her and tell her what to do, I know she heard me. So she better put that song out like we asked, and it changes, I think, a lot for the artists. Sometimes being able to really put out what they want to put out and to be able to experiment and to do what an artist should be allowed to do, which is make art. Art should not be expected. Art should not be demanded. I don't think that art should be dictated by criticism. And because the industry has changed to a really open funnel between the artist and the fan, there's a little bit more dictating that has happened. And now we have to respond in a way that sometimes doesn't always honor the art, but we also have a job to do. And so that is something that impacted our rollout a bit. And I will say, you know, it's a tough tug of war that we haven't exactly figured out yet. We just try to make sure that we do what's best for our artists and to try to keep our fans happy. But I think that if, you know, if Beyonce would have cared that the first day the first single off of Renaissance came out and a couple people were like, we don't get it, why is she making house, we would have lost the beauty of this whole Renaissance that like changed a lot of things for us a couple of years ago. And it's hard sometimes for artists to stand in their art when people are saying, we don't like that, we don't want that, go back and do what we want you to do. And so that's been the biggest industry change for me, I think, going through this process that I don't know where it's going, but it is it's challenging. I'll say that.
Alexis, you have anything you want to add to that?
Honestly, I think Amber hit it on the head.
Cool. All right. Well, this is the last one. We'll run this as the last question. I think this is a cool one to end on too. So this one is from Sage again. How would you approach marketing for an artist who's starting from ground zero? And I think that's, yeah.
I know everyone hates to hear it, but it starts with content. It truly does. I think the conversation is so interesting now, and I think it's growing, but for a lot of artists to hate making content because it feels like a job, it feels unnecessary. And to me, this is the most, um, this is the only time where artists are in control of their own careers. This is the time that like the gatekeepers are done. All of these things that used to stop artists from making it through. You have the ability now to have your career in your own hands. And the way that you do that is by making content. So I always think it's very interesting that a lot of artists like to shy away from it and feel like it's a job, because I feel like it's a gateway to being seen. So I think starting from the beginning, it will always be content, and it's the content that feels authentic to you. It is not, you don't. I remember working with so many artists. As soon as I asked them about their comfortability with content, they say, "I'm not dancing," and it's like, I wouldn't ask you to dance unless you like to dance. Like, I don't like. Can you even dance? Why would I want you to dance? Like, you're supposed to make content that showcases your art and showcases you. It's supposed to feel authentic, and sometimes it does feel like a job, but this is the job that you want. If you want to be an artist, it is a job. Just like me and Amber go work our jobs, like being an artist is a job, and you're gonna have to unfortunately work the job. So I think content is the most efficient way. And then I just lost my train of thought. I was gonna say, but content, I think is one of the most efficient ways that I was starting in. Oh, and the other thing that I think this is one of the greatest lessons I've learned with working with Amber and working with at LVRN is everything is a moment. So these things that feel unimportant to you, you should be thinking about how you can make it a moment. And I'll give a really great example that we shot a music video for one of our artists, Belly, and Amber had just the greatest idea of it was a song called Friend Dude. And it was basically just a video of all of them twerking, like, to be very honest. And again, like Amber mentioned, that there's things that's happened in the past that we can use and utilize now. So Amber's like, oh, remember the iconic Nelly swipe for Tip Drill? Amber's like, let's tap the phone and do Apple Pay. So like, this is this thing that we were just going to shoot the video, have these girls twerking, and now it's like, oh, we already are implanting the moment that we know we're going to focus on once the video is out. So making sure that every single moment, every single thing you're doing is a moment. And if you're just doing this very simple thing, you're like, oh, I'll just throw this up. I think you should push yourself to figure out how to make yourself stand out. And I think that's one of the best things we do at this company. And I think those are my top two things: making sure that everything is a moment, and content.
That's it. Yeah, I think that's great advice, great wisdom, and a great place to end. And one thing I will say is, Amber, you just dropped some wisdom here. This right here, this is spot on. The real work starts once the song is out. It's not the release day. It's after the song is out. And like Amber says, start paying attention to what people are gravitating to, plan out what content you're going to continue to make, what trend. That's when the work starts. And that's when you really have to start putting the foot on the gas and connecting with people. So
Donovan, how can we answer other people's questions? I don't know if these go somewhere or if we can answer on the YouTube. Like I've been in the chat being super nosy, and y'all are asking some of the greatest questions ever, and I don't want them to go unanswered because I know we can't stay here for 3 hours. But I don't know how we can do that. You let me know. Y'all have some tech stuff going on in Venice all the time, but I do want to make sure that people get their questions answered because like y'all are going crazy right now in the chat.
I can download a text file of the convo, and then I can send that to you, and then we can maybe send out an email recap to some of the
Fire.
questions.
We'll
Yeah.
do it. We'll do it.
Awesome.
That'll be our last piece of homework. We're out of here. Like,
Oh shoot,
Alexis
Alexis.
is really out of here. She's
And she's like, I'm on vacation. I finished this interview. I'm good.
she worked hard. She worked really hard. Like,
I know y'all did. I know y'all did. Y'all do so much, and Red's my boy, and I know all the great work y'all are doing, and I know y'all are just doing. It's just great to have y'all here, and really appreciate the time, Amber and Alexis. Y'all gave so much insight. We're gonna have a replay of this video, so we'll be able to share that with y'all. We're gonna have content pieces to share from the best moments of this conversation. But yeah, no, I think this was fantastic. I think it's a great place to end. Is there anything you want to leave the people with, Amber, before we head out?
no, just I appreciate every single person that is sitting here with us on Thursday. There you are.
Sorry, guys, my phone died.
We thought you went on vacation already. I just appreciate everybody that came to do this on a random Thursday. There's so much that went into this release. And the one thing that I will say is that Summer makes it so easy for us, again, like I said, because a lot of these ideas start with her. And I would just say the seed of an idea is the most important part. And if there's any executives in here or other people on artist teams, whatever it is your role is, it's okay. And sometimes the most important thing is to just be water. Because an artist has so many things to do, and they may have the seed of an idea, but the reason why they have a team is so that you can water it and help it grow and actually execute on their idea. So I will leave with saying, because I learned a lot from this campaign and doing this with our team, be water. Amplify the artist's idea, help them grow, push them to be bigger than they even want to be, but don't shy away or run away or try to give them a vision. Start with where the artist is at and help them grow is the biggest takeaway from myself. And I think Alexis, and working with Summer on this project, it was a privilege. And I would say that for anybody, just be water.
Love that. Yeah, that's a great one. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all for being here, Alexis. It was so nice meeting you, Amber. Always a pleasure. Yeah, I'll see y'all soon. Have a phenomenal holiday. And then everybody here, we'll have a replay of this. We'll be sharing content. You can also go to YouTube, Venice Music YouTube, if you want to rewatch it. It's a lot of information in here. You'll have it to watch. So yeah, much love, everybody. Have a great holiday, and see y'all soon.